What's up everybody, welcome back. So we created the base pose for our rifle and now we're gonna start making some actual moving animations. I want to start with the idle and the walking animation, and if there's some time left I'll probably do a lower and raise animation in this video as well. So let's start. So in Blender we want to make sure we're in the object mode with the skeleton of the character selected, and then go to the animation tab again. And let's create a new action. So create a new animation. Basically we're going to click the middle button over here. It's going to duplicate this one, so we're going to rename this first person idle. Now I'm going to collapse this and I'm going to select everything, so press A, and I'm going to get rid of the last keyframe in here, so select it and press delete. And we're ready to make a new animation. So I'm going to go back to the layout into my pose mode. Now the process of making an idle animation is not hard, but making one that looks good can be pretty challenging. So do not expect too much wonders right here. First I'm gonna select everything and go to frame 30, and I'm gonna add a keyframe. So everything is looping, so let's go back to the beginning and make sure we have everything selected and add a keyframe as well. So everything matches up, and let's put a keyframe in the middle somewhere. So I'm going to select both of the hands, shift select them at the same time, and I can simply move them around a little bit. So let's go up a little bit, maybe a little bit to the right. And I'm gonna rotate the gun down just slightly. And a little bit inward maybe. Now I'm gonna press I again to insert a keyframe. And if I set the end frames here to 30 and I press spacebar, I can see the animation. So it's pretty crappy, I know, but you can see it's moving, so something is happening, and that's good. So let's make this a little bit longer. Let's make an idle animation of about 60 frames maybe. So it's not moving around as much. So we can simply select this keyframe and drag it around a little bit. And I'm gonna add another key in here somewhere. Now let's see, we're going up a little bit. So if we want to make it look right, I think we want to go a little bit to the right. That's a bit much. And I'm gonna move it a little bit to the left and drop it down slightly. Now let's see, insert a keyframe and press spacebar. So it's pretty horrible, but it's moving, so you'll get the idea. Now you can see it's pretty choppy, it's moving like a robot basically, and we want to try and make it a little bit smoother. So if we go to the animation tab and we can select the animation graph all the way on the left here, the graph editor, so you can see the lines of the movement in here. And let me see, so there's not a whole lot of movement. It's a bit difficult to see in here because we're only making these small movements, so I'm not sure if you're able to see what I'm going to be talking about. But if you select all of the frames and you right click, you can set the interpolation mode to linear and Bezier and sinus and stuff like that, and that's going to determine how the curves are looking. So basically how the movement of the gun and how the speed of the movement is. And you can also set easing type to ease in and out, or to only ease in or only ease out. And by playing around with this you can change the steepness of the curves and the angles. So this will change the look of the animation, and this should make it look a little bit smoother, I think. Yeah, it's not as choppy as it was, but you'll have to play around with different settings for different animations and different movements. So again, just mess around with this a little bit till you think it looks okay. So for now, I'm going to keep this as an idle animation. So let's see. Let's stop playing this and go back to create a new animation. So we need to go back to the action editor in here. So if we select the dope sheet, we are back in our action editor. Make sure we select the little shield button for the idle animation we created, so it'll actually save it. And we're going to go back to the pose and duplicate this one, so we have a nice clean animation to start with. And I'm going to call this walk. Again, select the little shield button, so none of our hard work will be lost. And I'm going to select everything, press A and get rid of the last keyframe, so delete it. Go to the layout, go back to pose mode, and let's make somewhat of a walking animation. And the same goes for walking as for idle. Like, making one isn't hard, but making one that looks good, it can be pretty tough. So it won't be anything special. Let's keep it at that. So let's see, select both of the hands, and we just need to move them around to make it look like we're walking, basically. So let's see if we go to somewhere around frame 15 maybe, and how are we gonna do this? Let's move it a little bit forward and a little bit down, a little bit to the left, and let's rotate it down a little bit as well. Not too much. Come on. Something like this. And maybe turn it a little bit, not too much again. So I'm gonna add a keyframe for this. That looks a bit weird. So I don't think I want to move it down as much. And I want to rotate it a bit more. Something like this maybe. So let's go to frame 30. And let's rotate it back down. And let's move it to the right a little bit. And a little bit backwards. And add a keyframe for this as well. Now I'm going to select everything, so press A, and I'm going to copy my first keyframe, so select it, Ctrl C, go to frame 45 somewhere and paste it. Now I'm going to set the animation length to 45 and press spacebar, and there we have our absolute crap walking animation. But again, it'll have to do for now, simply because these videos are going to take way too long if I start making anything half decent. So let's just set some interpolation and easing over here. Well, it's not great, but I think for now we'll have to live with it. So we have an idle and a walk animation. Let's start exporting this to Unreal Engine. So let's see, go to the object mode and let's go to the animation tab. It's going to put us back in pose mode, so let's go back to object mode, and we have the walk animation selected. So let's go to export Mr Mannequin FBX, and I'm going to export the action. And we want to export the idle animation as well, so select this one and we're going to export it. So export Mannequin FBX. I don't think I'm putting this in the correct folder. No, I'm not. So Make sure you are. And export it. Now let's get Unreal Engine and let's import our animations. So I exported the first one to my desktop. Let's get it in here as well. So there we have our two new animations. Let's go to the animation folder over here in our project and simply drag them in. Now make sure you import them on the default skeleton. So Mr. Mannequin arms, import all. And we can create a little animation blueprint. So open the default one and simply edit that. I'm gonna get rid of the jumping for now, so delete those. Open your idle state, get rid of the idle animation and plug in your own idle animation. And do the same for the running, so get rid of first person run and we're gonna plug in our rifle walk. So let's rename this, why not? First person walk. And we can leave the animation graph as it is, that's fine. Don't need to change anything in the event graph either, so we can compile and save it. Now let's assign it to our character, so go to the blueprint, first person character blueprint, and select your mesh. And we want to make sure it's using an animation blueprint, and it's our first person animation blueprint. Compile this, and let's see how this looks. Not gonna look pretty, but but you can see it's working. So we have an idle animation playing now, and if we start walking, we're playing our walking animation, both of which are absolute crap, but it's working and that's the point, so we're gonna have to deal with it. Okay, so let me see. I think I'm gonna keep the lower and raise animations for a separate video. They're pretty short, so I can just slap them in a little bit later. So we're gonna keep it at this for now. Thanks for watching and talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.